Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. In fact, I'm a bit earlier than I thought I would be. First, I want to pay a special tribute to frontline workers who've worked tirelessly at the forefront of fighting this deadly virus. Our nation is indebted to all those doctors, nurses and other health workers who rose above the limits of their duty, saved lives and ensured the availability of essential services. However, I want to go on record with thanking one particular nurse, Madam Deputy Speaker, someone who's never been mentioned in here, which is my identical twin brother. He has been on a COVID ward for the entire duration of this pandemic, unable to have a vaccine because he's been allergic to them. So he has really been at the forefront. I am proud of everything he has done throughout this, and I cannot say so enough. Madam Deputy Speaker, the number of times people come to me and say, "You have an identical twin, but who's the good one and who's the evil one?" I'm a Conservative MP and he's a nurse, so I'll let everyone else do the math of that one. But for everyone else out there, the public have gone above and beyond during this pandemic, whether it's brewers and distilleries making vital hand sanitizer, whether it's chemical works like ITAC that I visited last year who've fundamentally changed their own production method to make hand sanitizer, whether it's bed makers in Hayward and Middleton like Vitafoam who've gone from making beds to making face masks. Everyone has fundamentally changed the way they work, the way they live, the way they eat even in some cases. And I think we're all getting to the point where we are now all sick of Zoom and Teams, so the way we socialise, thankfully, is coming back to the forefront, and we are able to now have a cautious hug, a cautious handshake, and heaven forbid, a pint over football tonight, and again it's coming home, Mr. Deputy Speaker. At the onset of the crisis, there was a real fear that we would run out of vital equipment against the backdrop of an unprecedented global demand. That is why we acted quickly to secure the medical equipment and the PPE needed for our frontline workers, securing over 22,000 additional ventilators and delivering over 11.7 billion items of PPE to frontline workers. We've moved heaven and earth, as any responsible government would do, to keep people safe, and we make no apology for acting at pace in securing the life-saving equipment needed to save lives. In addition, this government has secured a portfolio of 507 million doses of the 8 most promising vaccines. Not only are we vaccinating this country, we're making sure that we're donating 100 million vaccines to the most needy across the globe, and this is something that I am immensely proud of. The UK has stormed ahead with this vaccination programme, and that's why we are able to unlock, and that's why we are able to hopefully go back to freedom. Despite this, SNP ministers wanted the UK to join the EU's vaccine scheme, with the SNP Social Care Minister Kevin Stewart slamming our decision to opt out of the EU scheme, calling it lunacy and irresponsible. And we only need to look to our neighbours on the continent to see that we were right. On the contrast, the latest figures show that as a result, our independent vaccine programme shows that 86% of people in the UK have received their first dose of a vaccine and 64% are fully vaccinated, having received their second dose. In terms of testing, Mr. Deputy Speaker, we have one of the best testing rates in the world, with the capacity to deliver over 1 million tests per day. Instead of the opposition attacking our efforts, our achievements should be celebrated as an example of what we can do truly as a united kingdom. Mr. Deputy Speaker, the opposition claims about conflicts of interest over PPE contracts have been thrown out by multiple independent investigations which have failed to find any conflict of interest whatsoever by ministers over PPE procurement. Indeed, the Deputy Chief Medical Officer himself said that an inquiry would be an unnecessary extra burden right now that would distract from the vaccine rollout. It's the SNP government themselves who decided to order over 500 million in contracts without competition. So perhaps the SNP should be looking at keeping their own house in order rather than attacking our government. Mr. Deputy Speaker, transparency is fundamental to trust. And I will stand up right now and say we haven't got everything right. And if I was to say so, I would be lying, not just inadvertently misleading the House. And that is why a fully independent public inquiry starting next spring will ensure that the pandemic response is robustly examined. It will show where we've got things right, and it will show where, unfortunately, we have got things wrong. And we have got some things wrong during this pandemic because we are human. And obviously, hindsight is 20/20. But when you have an unprecedented pandemic, you make the decision you think is right at the time, and then you can only judge it afterwards. Furthermore, we have strengthened transparency around the awarding of government contracts by bringing in new rules around government procurement, so we can make sure that government contracts are fully transparent and offer true value for money. We will also be publishing more information about government contracts, so all details about the procurement process are in the public domain. And in conclusion, Mr Deputy Speaker, the party opposite have used every opportunity throughout the pandemic to play politics, from accusing Kate Bingham of cronyism to describing test and trace as money wasted, while Labour and the SNP might be more interested in sniping from the sidelines. It's this Conservative government that's delivered for the people of this country. It's why we're able to reopen the economy. It's why we're able to reopen the country, and why hopefully